We happy few. A story where we dive into a world of drugs, poverty and delusions. A world where hope is in rare supply at the end of a terrifying war against Germany and suffering and loss greater than people realise. Welcome to part 2, where we continue to look at the character of Arthur Hastings. In the last video, we left at the realisation that the children of Wellington Wells had been forced onto a train leaving for Germany and never came back. Arthur is more desperate than ever to find out what happened to Percy and willing to do whatever it takes to escape from the shithole that was once his home. As we learned, the tunnel we wanted to use to get to the bridge which connects Wellington Wells to the mainland are blocked and we need another way. Ollie says the only way to the bridge is from Appleholme Station in the Paradise District, meaning Arthur has to go to Maidenholm, yet there is another obstacle in the way. Salamanca Bridge, which will take us to Maidenholm, is closed to the public due to poor maintenance. Ollie has promised to get Arthur across on one condition: help him rob the Victoria Memorial Camp. By rob, he means he robs them while Arthur gets chased by soldiers with bayonets. Arthur is at a loss. He doesn't trust Ollie. In his notes, "Let's all get killed," he mentions Ollie is a loony, especially as he is talking to a girl who isn't there. He eventually agrees to help Ollie, as like Arthur says in his notes, "On the other hand, what else have I got?" This is pretty much a stealth mission for us: searchlights, patrols and the tanks the Germans left. In the notes, look at all those tanks. Arthur reminisces about how he and Sally would stare at them, wondering if they were fun to drive. Arthur also wondered why the Germans would leave them behind once they had taken the children away. In the notes it states the Soviets were smashing them to pieces in the east, so why leave such military vehicles behind when they were clearly needed elsewhere? When Arthur meets up with Ollie at the bunker outside the memorial camp, he asks, "Do you ever wonder why the Germans didn't take their tanks with them when they left?" This moment feels important, as barely a second has passed since Arthur finished his question. Ollie changes the subject, talking about a map he made. He doesn't address the question in any way, shape or form. Is Ollie too wrapped up in the mission to hear the question, or is he purposely ignoring it as he doesn't want to address it? If it is the latter, what is Ollie hiding and why? After going through the plan, we have no idea what Ollie is stealing. The plan is to steal the keys from the General's office to gain access to the power station room, where you'll turn off the power. Ollie leaves us here, saying he will meet you again at the train station. Arthur manages to gain access to the hole in the fence, and after handling the patrol, he climbs upon the roof of a small shack to jump over the fence to gain access to the main part of the base. While standing on the roof preparing himself for the jump, a searchlight blinds him, resulting in Arthur falling down towards one of the tanks. To his horror, Arthur does not land on top of the tank, but rather falls through it. The question as to why the Germans left the tanks has now been answered. They were fake. Always had been. Nothing but plywood and papier-mâché. Arthur is horrified to learn the people of Wellington Wells had given up their children because of fucking fake tanks. The mission is somewhat of a success. Ollie got what he wanted. Arthur, on the other hand, is beyond angry and is in need of answers. He asks if Ollie knew the switch to the power room was alarmed. As he demands answers, Ollie is in his own little world talking to Margaret. Ollie does answer and eventually tries to brush it off with, "How would I know?" We then approach the elephant in the room, i.e. the tanks in the base. Arthur presents a piece of the tank. Ollie looks confused, asking what it is. Arthur explains it came from the tank, but they were nothing but papier-mâché. Angered by this revelation, knowing there was no real threat from the Germans, had they risen up instead of following their orders, Arthur breaks. It is in this moment he finally says out loud the truth. He lied his way to get off the train and left Percy behind. Arthur looks to Ollie after finally admitting the truth. Ollie is showing the piece to the invisible girl, saying, "You don't forget a thing like that." Noticing Ollie didn't hear him, Arthur repeats himself, "Didn't you hear me? I convinced the Germans they had my birthday wrong." The silence is broken by the screams of Percy inside Arthur's head. In this moment, Arthur wishes to take his joy and sleep through the end of the world. He snaps back into reality, remembering his promise to keep Percy safe in Germany. Turning on Ollie, Arthur reminds him he promised to help him get to the bridge. Thankfully, it seems the invisible girl convinces Ollie to keep his word. You are handed a strange contraption with no idea what it is, but Ollie reassures Arthur he can gain access to the bridge if he bluffs his way across with it by claiming to be there to fix the problem. The bluff works when you lead the constable to believe you are an inspector. From the conversation, you learn the constable does not want to let wastrels in as they are off their joy. Once thinking Arthur is an inspector, he starts to feel threatened and allows him to go through. It only takes you so far. When Arthur approaches the maintenance hatch, he can't go any further as he needs a keycard. Thankfully, there is another way. We have to go through rehabilitation. What surprises me about Arthur is when he bluffed his way with the constable, he is confident and showed no reason to be doubted. Yet when he tried to explain who he was to the receptionist, Arthur becomes nervous, stuttering and mumbling. Though he informs the receptionist he is an inspector after being told he has to take the test, she casually replies, if what he says is true, then he wouldn't have a problem passing the test. So we are now forced to be decontaminated, changed into clean clothes and sprayed with the scent of licorice. What monsters, I hate that stuff. First stage is to watch a movie by the one and only Uncle Jack, a charming man with a white mask and a snappy suit who tells you the rules of living in the village. To be honest, I never really listened as I was mesmerised by the smile of Uncle Jack as he spoke with a reassuring confidence and cheer about how to live in a civil life inside Wellington Wells. After this entertaining movie, you are led to what feels like a TV quiz show to test what you have learned. Arthur is competing with a wastrel who keeps picking C, a choice that somehow always involves or related to eyes. During the last question, we learn that the man in the trench coat who we saw at work was actually a doctor. What the hell? At the end, you hear this was the wastrel's 6th attempt at the quiz, and though yourself passed the test, the whole set has reset itself for the quiz to begin again. The door Arthur came through is jammed. However, Arthur notices a way out. On the right, where the robot came from, is a vent where we can go through, leading you to a corridor where a constable congratulates you on passing. Arthur enters a lift, and once it gets to the floor and opens, you find yourself welcomed by the locals. It is overheard that it has been a while since someone had come through from the other side. This left me wondering, how long had they been waiting there for this welcome party? Though the constables say there was someone inside, it makes me wonder how long the person has been in there for. Yes, they had tried the quiz 6 times, but how much time did that take? The door does not seem to open from the inside of the room, like someone on the other side had locked it and would only unlock it once a new person had arrived. Also, if you look at when Arthur did, he had passed the test, but the door was still locked. No matter what the outcome of the test, the people inside would remain trapped. Though I have tried to look up the piece of classical music used for this scene, I have failed to find the composer. If anyone does know who composed this music, then please put down in the comment sections, as I have to please the high and mighty Phil, Dark Lord of my soul. The music feels as though it is meant to stir up a sense of accomplishment within whoever comes through. They are breaking the shackles which were their life in the wasteland, existing without no purpose or hope, to then be brave to enter the challenge one must take to enter paradise. And now they enter proudly as the locals cheer for their fallen who have come back against the odds. But in reality, they are going back to a life of drug dependence, denial of the past, and handing over their free will to become junkies. We are about to enter a world where we have to watch everything we say and do, as police patrol every street, downy detectors and barriers are active, and the people around us are sensitive to abnormal behaviour. Arthur will have to navigate his way through without being noticed. As Arthur leaves, he mentions he does have a letter in transit. This will allow us to get further, however we need to get to the Paradise District to get it. He comes up with the idea of breaking into the government printing office in Maidenhome to retrieve a blank one, as there's no way to get to the one he already has. On our way, we bump into Sally Boyle, Arthur's childhood friend. At first, Arthur does not recognise her, trying to act normal and get away as quickly as he can. However, Sally recognises him immediately and comes over for a chat. Taken back by how much Sally has changed, Arthur becomes nervous, looking down at the ground and mumbling his words. Together they reminisce about the old times, like a dress Sally used to own, the one she wore when she ran out of the house. This seems to hit a nerve of sort with Sally, as she is now nervous about it, brushing off with a remark about how she hated that dress. Desperate to change the topic, Sally notices Arthur is no longer on his joy and reassures him she will not report him, as she herself has not been taking it. She inquires about why he stopped taking it. Arthur tells her about the picture he saw in an old article about Percy, along with his plan to leave Wellington Wells to find him. Knowing Arthur will need a letter of transit, Sally mentions she knows the General Byng. For some reason, mentioning this enrages Arthur. He makes an offhand comment saying, "You always did have a knack for making helpful new friends." Pretending she did not hear this, Sally offers to go to General Byng to get one. Instead of being grateful for the suggestion, our protagonist waves his hand in front of her saying, "Don't put the General out on my account. I'm sure you've only got so many favours you can ask." The next part is telling. Something had happened 14 years ago involving Sally, which greatly upset Arthur. He is in need of answers, however Sally mutters about how she liked him. He had an adorable beard before losing the will to give reasons, stating there isn't a reason for everything. Becoming defensive, Sally retorts Arthur should be the last person off their joy, recalling a story about how a downer broke into her home and destroyed her lab. Her point was it was a dangerous world, and Arthur needs as much help as he can. She tells us where we can find her if we need help. Arthur turns his back to her, no longer able to face her, and buffing off her comments. A few seconds later, he finds himself again and is calm. He suggests maybe they should meet up later when he feels better. Sadly, when Arthur turns around, Sally is gone. Whatever happened between the two must have been terrible if Arthur refused to see her for 14 years, but we don't know the details. We know there was another man involved, as Sally mentioned, although it does not give us much to go on apart from Arthur's retorts about how she can make helpful new friends and can gain favours from the General. It gives the feeling Arthur is suggesting Sally is trading sexual favours to get what she needs and wants. We will look further into this when we cover Sally Boyle, but for now we will leave here. Join us for part 3 where we will go further into the unknown with Arthur Hastings.